Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Goal-Directed Visualization for 2016. Today's session is all about going from thoughts to results, specifically focused on the new year. This is a time for level setting, planning, sort of forging your path at the beginning of the year. My name is Shelley Hayduck, and I'm co-hosting today's event with Matt Caton, our Director of Customer Solutions.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today.
And I do want to let you know that we will have a very active Q&A session that both Matt and I, depending on who's demoing, will pop into and answer questions. If we don't get to your question right away, don't worry. We get to the majority of them during the Q&A. But feel free to start using that Q&A panel. Due to the volume of attendees, you will automatically be muted. Now, that being said, I do want to let you know that we do still encourage that feedback through the Q&A. And, of course, we have two audio modes. Have a stream through your computer speakers, or you can call our conference line if you are trying to conserve bandwidth. So I thought I'd start today's session off with a very interesting statistic I just found from WFAA, and it says, the news article says that each year about 45% of Americans, now I apologize to the Canadians or Europeans or Australians who are listening to this stat happens to be about Americans, but I think it might be somewhat indicative of most of us on the call today. About 45% of Americans make New Year resolutions, but only about 8% of people will actually keep their resolution and achieve their goal. So whether or not, I'm not sure how they circled back with people to get that result, but let's be part of at least the 8%, or let's go ahead and get that 8% number up to maybe 100% of everyone, because there is a lot of data as well, not to get into too many studies, about the tie between visualization and actualization. In fact, in sports psychology, a lot of performance athletes will use visualization to actually visualize getting to the finish line, scoring that goal, what have you. And so this is the same kind of thing you can do for your business, for your personal, for your day-to-day goals with visualization software like TheBrain. So going from visualization to reaching a goal is a very important component between mind to action. So to that end, we've actually developed a brain. It's called From Thoughts to Results for 2016. All of you on the call are welcome to a brain zip of this brain. We can publish it and send you a link. But I do want to let you know, for those of you on the Brain 8, you can actually go into Import and Template Brains, and it is the brainstorming brain that a lot of these thoughts are part of. Or if you want to create a new brain with me, just go up to New Brain here and select, maybe Goal-Directed Visualization 2016 or the Brain Webinar 2016, and just go ahead and check Brainstorming and hit OK, and that will generate the majority. I might have tweaked this one a little bit, but the majority of thoughts on the brainstorming brain are in here. And the reason we use this brain is because we talk a lot about outcome-based thought networks when we're dealing with resolutions. So the idea of visualizing and coming up with a plan, capturing those goals and ideas in your brain, but then beyond that, creating those supporting thoughts to go ahead and make that dream a reality. There's a lot of data on what they call reframing a goal or breaking down that goal. And what the reframing does is it takes a big idea like, I want to retire on my own island by the time I'm 55, and actualize that into other steps, like how much savings do I have? What's my investment strategy? What businesses am I growing to get me there? So moving from a lofty idea to actual concrete steps And these steps can all be managed and visualized so you can see seeing is action in your brain. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to start out with this example brain. Then we're going to get into real world examples, but a little bit on the theory just to get everyone excited and to give you an overall conceptual framework for how you can use the brain and software like TheBrain for going from thoughts to results. So first of all, brainstorming. Now this is where we do whole webinars on this. I'm not really going to focus too much on this today, but I do want to let you know if you're starting the new year and it hit you like a truck and you're like, wow, I don't know, I'd like some goals. I don't know what they are. You could be in that category. That's where you might want to start brainstorming. And in this section we have Alex Osborne, who's actually the father of brainstorming. He wrote this wonderful book called Applied Imagination. And he has a whole bunch of rules. I won't get into each one of them, but a lot of them are just getting a bunch of ideas in your brain if you're trying to develop some goals or resolutions for this year, and to just withhold criticism on yourself. And this is hard. I know we withhold criticism on others when we're polite in meetings and things like that, but on yourself, welcome all kinds of unusual ideas, and then go ahead and set your goals. So there's a lot to be done there. For the purpose of this seminar, since we're going from thoughts to results, I'm actually going to assume that you all have goals, but you just want to maybe achieve them. So we're going to talk about carving a space in your brain for those goals, and then taking these goals and working on them throughout the year to become a reality. And for those of you that are new to TheBrain, it's worth pointing out that there is no limit to the number of ideas or thoughts you can have in the brain. So you can create a new brain to do this with our template, or just if you're, again, following along in the software, just create a thought off your name. It can be 2016 goals, and start to create child thoughts of those goals. And we'll get into more examples. So if you don't want to do that right away and you just want to sit back and watch, that's all good. Very, very, very important stuff. So in terms of goal-directed thinking, there is a couple of things you want to do that we're going to talk about. And there's some principles, though, that you want to follow for this goal-directed or outcome-based thought networks. So I've talked a little bit about the concept of breaking down the dream. So a lot of you might be wondering, why do I need to do this? I have an idea in my head. I want to increase my sales. That's good enough. I'm just going to kind of think about that throughout my day, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. But getting the idea out of your head is very important. That way you can actually act on it and achieve on it, and monitor and manage your progress. And there's a lot of management theories on this. Some of you might be familiar with David Allen's Getting Things Done. His whole theory is about getting ideas, commitments, and your actions into a trusted system so you can sort of analyze and execute them more effectively. Stephen Covey talks a lot about that with his urgency matrix, and making sure that we are aligned with our defined values that we create, whether it's for our productivity for our day or for our life. So the brain is just a great, fun place to bring all this kind of wonderful stuff together. And what you can get is a natural but diligent organizational structure. So, we don't need to create a PowerPoint plan for everything we do in our life. Now, if you want to do that, that's fine. Store it in the brain. No worries there. But a lot of people, especially when it comes to New Year's resolutions and personal goals, or ironically, higher level business strategy, other than maybe your business plan or your marketing plan for 2016, you don't really have a place where you're actively defining the goal and then tracking how well we are on these goals. So that's where the brain can also help you. And the key approach to this is, once you define your problem or objective, you're actually creating thoughts that focus on the solution. How do I get there? Rather than the problem. And so the way you do that is, of course, first of all, we've got 6 steps that we've articulated. There are many different methods And we're not going to get too bogged down in methodology, but this brain covers stuff on this, as well as the David Allen GTD methodology and a bit of Stephen Covey. This is obviously a huge topic for people. And why wouldn't it be if only 8% of us are meeting our goals from the beginning of year to year end? That's a problem, right? So what we want to do is we want to define success. So, I even say this to large clients at the beginning of an implementation. It's like the best way to fail is not to know what success is. So you want a definition of what you want to do. And in fact, you could make the argument that goal-directed thinking and reframing goals is all about defining till we get to the most minuscule task and action item for each team member. So in that sense, we're sort of becoming explicitly conscious of these actions that are going to elevate us to that final higher level goal. So what is your success? Now, this is the area where you want to define what end result you want, and you're going to see it in your brain. And this is where you can also drag and drop target metrics, all kinds of things. So if you have a marketing project, you want to link to your marketing rollout. Maybe you had a branding session where you have some websites that you've added, or your budget, because that's also important. So that's part of defining success. Now, I know we want to stay positive. It's the beginning of the new year, but we also need to be realistic. So the next phase in goal-directed thinking is knowing our obstacles, just having that higher level situational awareness of what's going on in your market, in your life, or what are some challenges, what are some risks that we need to overcome or examine to meet our goal. So obstacles could be, overcoming, getting management approval, overcoming objections, maybe it's securing funding. On a health level, it could be getting certain health metrics, maybe blood sugar down. In terms of you're doing a home renovation project, it could be, finding a trustworthy contractor, or maybe it's getting city approval for some building construction you want. So this is an area that, we don't dwell on, but it is very important to have our mind to it, and it can be linked to positive things as well. So under securing funding, I might want to start linking all the VCs I want to approach, all my alliances, and so forth. And, that's the great thing about the brain. One thought leads to another, and suddenly you've got this cascade of ideas coming together to help direct you in a more conscious and intelligent manner. So project planning, in a sense, you could say, yeah, this is all project planning, and yeah, it kind of is. So there are many ways to do that. You can have key milestones in your brain, as you should. You can evaluate by week, by month. We also have timeline in the brain. If I just click on this clock here, that actually shows me all my thoughts I want today, and goes back to, each day that I've worked on this brain. So that's another way to do it. We'll get into calendaring features and thought reminders and stuff like that. But the other thing you can do is, of course, each phase of your project can be mapped out in the brain. And then there are different project planning models. Right here, we're just visualizing the getting things done, natural planning project module as well. So that's kind of where we are in step 3. Another important thing that in meeting your goals that a lot of people forget about, and it's almost the fun thing, it's very fun to create a complete knowledge base of references and inspirations. And we have a lot of designers using the brain. You can use it to drag and drop to your favorite artists, your favorite designers, the companies that inspire you most, individuals, people, if you're, a charity, the humanitarian causes that you're focusing on, all that's great. You can also attach zoomable icons and pictures, and we'll show you how to do that. And that's sometimes inspiration is more important than anything else, because it gives us that creative energy to move forward. So I do encourage everyone who's mapping out their 2016 goals to go ahead and put at least a couple inspirational thoughts. Again, beginning, as Stephen Covey would say, with the end in mind, and having that inspiration available to you in your brain. And then part of inspiration and getting things done is alliances. So this is another area that a lot of people overlook in terms of what I need to do. So let's say I am a new business owner and I want to open up my own restaurant. Well, I don't really know how to get started. I'm an amazing chef, but there's a lot for me to do. Well, this is where you can start to attend conferences and trade shows, talk to colleagues or peers, other people in your community that share similar vision, but get those people all in your brain so that you have it all in one place. So you're not forgetting, oh my goodness, I met this person last week. They could have helped me with this aspect of my project. Industry associations are fabulous for that. Always have a nice big section of that in the brain. If you're a student, it could be students or teachers. And then past work references, stuff you've done in the past that can leverage for future. And of course, if you're in a larger company, past work references would be past projects and different colleagues and executive sponsors that you've worked with in the past that you might want to put on this project again. And then after that, finally, outcomes and lesson learned. At the end of the year, or whenever your deadline is, you want to look back and whether the project is a success or not a success. To some degree, that doesn't matter. Some people would argue it's the journey. You keep it in your brain. There's no limit to the number of thoughts. And actually, the military and a lot of government organizations, they have very nice brains and knowledge bases on lessons learned because we can learn so much from the past, both from positive and negative outcomes as well. So that also, so then your brain becomes your space for archiving all these goals as well. So what I'm going to do now is move from theory to reality. And I'm going to open a brain here, my brain, and just talk a little bit. Now, this particular brain is sort of the concept of the one brain for everything, where we've got business, managing business, personal, we can have all kinds of stuff, worldview, all that wonderful stuff. But in the top of this brain, I have top of my mind stuff that I'm kind of always thinking about, which is competitors, what I'm reading, blah, blah, blah. But the other thing that I add right at the beginning of the year that's very important are my 2016 goals and resolutions. So this is something that you want to get in your brain, create a jump thought off your main area or wherever you want to go. And you can have all kinds of things. So healthy living, maybe it's a new investment idea. Maybe it is to retire at 55, and you can divide types of goals. So these are more business-oriented goals. Personal goals might be learning a computer skill, more family time, paying off the mortgage, taking more risks. Maybe I want to do more investments. Or it might just be learning a new subject like quantum mechanics. And see, one of the things you'll notice here is your goal can then be connected to other things in your brain. So for instance, healthy living, I actually have a thought on health and fitness. So I want to go ahead and make that connection there and see what I want to do. And so maybe this is related. Maybe I want to get a little bit more specific and link potential fitness programs, specifically maybe martial arts, taking a new martial art, to my 2016 goal. So, it doesn't have to be as complicated as this plan. It could just be like, hey, I have a thought in my brain. I forgot about that. 2016, now's the time to activate it and connect it. I actually forgot I did some really good research on capoeira and so forth. So now I've got that right here in my brain, and I actually forgot about doing this. I didn't do it 2 years ago. Maybe this year I'll get started. So here it is. So that's an example of the sort of serendipitous connections people who already have developed brains can get when they start thinking, because the brain will remind you of things. I had the same thing when I did a new investment idea. I linked it to a bunch of ideas. I decided I don't want to invest in that, but there was a money market fund, a tech annual report, and of course I can have references to, all these PDFs and have them launch. And that takes me to my stock trade account under online brokers in my investment strategy, which is a well-developed area that I already have in my brain. So sometimes it's going to be carving out a new area in your brain. Other time it's just going to be, connecting to relevant ideas. So if I want to go back to my 2016 goals and resolutions, maybe what I want to do as an investment idea is I actually want to buy some Canadian currency because the Canadian dollar is low, US dollar is high. That has all kinds of consequences. I fly a lot. So that's one thing that I might want to put in my brain, and that might be an action item. So I might want to start doing some research on how the best way it is to do that. So I'm going to do a search web feature and just go out to TheBrain and go ahead and we just go ahead and there is all kinds of stuff. I'm going to go to the Wells Fargo foreign exchange, maybe make a link to that, and then I might going to go back to maybe the news section and talk about the Canadian dollar. And so there's some interesting articles on that as far as forecasting. So now what I'm doing is I'm sort of building a plan in terms of how I want to execute on this. And I may not have time to read this full forecast now, but I definitely want to get it in my brain, maybe next week when I meet with my financial advisor, just to have some ideas on, talking to them about what I want to do. So, this is oil prices are low right now, so that's going down, but I know it's going to go up eventually, so it might be a great time to actually do that. So this is just one idea I have that I'm executing in my brain under investment ideas. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to go there. I've got some other ideas. These are all hypothetical examples. By the way, of course, we are not endorsing any type of investment ideas. Give you just a standard disclaimer here. But, you can see how helpful it is to organize. And, this is also something I can do from my stock trade account. I can do it through different stocks. So I might want to put that there as an idea as well. And the other idea might be to sell some of these stocks as they move up and down. So, these are all interesting things. And it's stuff that, you'll have a lot of ideas floating around, but organizing them in the brain is very important. So let me go into my business section now. And I'm actually going to go to business development. And what I really want to focus on is 2016 business expansion opportunities. So I'm going to create a new thought here called 2016 business expansion. Now, that's going to be my new thought, just to kind of make it interesting. I'm going to go ahead and select an icon here. Let me go ahead and get something that's interesting. I'll go into maybe sim objects. Sure, why not? Let me go ahead and put a little medal by this to really, make myself feel like a winner as I get started on this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start my brainstorming, and I'm going to come up with some ideas that might lead me to expanding my business further in 2016. And for the purpose of this example brain, my business is a e-commerce, e-marketing business. So I'm just going to go ahead and one idea I have, so dragging from the gate below my active thought to create a child thought, sort of a subcategory of information, I'm going to increase advertising. That's one idea I have to maybe expand. And of course, the brain has spell check, so I can spell check right there. And the thing I love about the brain is as I'm typing out these ideas, you can see that it's actually giving me existing thoughts that I have. It's reminding me and presenting relevant information. So that is fabulous. For now, I'm just going to leave that and have this as a separate sort of tableau rasa idea, but that's very helpful. Now I'm going to use a semicolon to input multiple thoughts at once. So I want to do a new customer service survey. Put that in my brain. I also want to perhaps hire more sales reps. Now, by the way, this can be done as a group. You can throw the brain up on a projector. You can do it through Team Brain Services. Just start adding ideas here on kind of where you want to go, what direction if you don't have that. Technology partnerships. Could be another interesting thing. And then something more controversial that might take more time is acquisition of, let's just say, company A. So I'll just correct the spelling there. So you can see I'm starting to build things. And then finally, maybe what I just need to do is expand overseas. So I'm going to create a thought for opening new office in Asia. So boom, I've got my thoughts here. The other thing that's really nice is, of course, I've got a notes area where I can take notes, and each thought now can be further connected to other things as well as defined. So each thought can have its own type or tag. What thought tags do is they create another level of semantic categorization on a specific thought. So I'm not necessarily linking to something else, but I want to give this thought more definition. So I have thought types in my brain for time frame as well as cost. So for instance, acquisition of company A, if I'm evaluating that, that is a high investment. It costs a lot of money to buy a company. I actually, in terms of time frame, it would take over a year. So I gotta get that in there so we can see now as I'm looking at ideas. So this one's high investment, over a year. Hiring more sales reps, I'm going to put that as medium cost, and that is something in terms of time frame too we could do within 6 months to really get people up and going. So now as I'm looking at all these ideas, I'm actually tagging them and weighting the validity of that idea so that I can decide which one I want to execute on. Customer service strategy, I love that, something we can do within 2 months, very low investment. I'm going to put that as low cost. That one is looking, oopsie, and let me just make sure you guys can see what's going on here. That is looking really good. So you can see that one is coming up on top. Same thing with technology partnerships. That's even something that we could probably do like now. And I'm also putting that as low cost as well, because those are just partnerships. So as I'm building, some of these ideas are jumping out at me more than others. And then opening up an Asian office, that is a higher investment, but it's something that we can do within a 6 month time frame. It's something we need to do. So now you can see how all of that has come together. Let me just make this brain a little smaller here so you can see. I'm actually presenting in a low resolution just so everything comes across nicely on the webcams and screen capture and so forth. So now what I can do, I've got things tagged. I also have thought types. Now thought type is another definition that you can put on a particular thought. You can only have one thought type per thought, but stuff that I want to do, like new customer service strategy, I'm going to give that a green light. I'm going to move, because I've decided, because it's so cheap and I can do it quickly, it's a green lighted project. So now when I'm looking at all my ideas under 2016 business expansion, I'm going to put the ones that I've green lighted right over here. And the other thing that I can do fairly quickly is tech partnerships. So again, just thought type this, green lighted project. For those of you that want some template thought types and tags, you don't have to create them all. You can go to import and select template brain, and actually right at the end here there's something called business tags and types, and you'll get different levels of projects, different types. That's nice as well. It's very easy to create your own thought types and tags. So the other thing I might want to do, if increasing advertising is a medium cost but more research, I can hold on making some of these decisions. So far I've sort of decided, and in our meeting there was one thought. I have a thought type for hot topic. It's something that was highly contested. We're not sure if we're going to move forward with this, but we have this. Now I can start to work on my thoughts. So first of all, new customer service strategy, that's something that that's something that marketing has to get involved in. So I'm going to go ahead and make a connection and link this under marketing. So now I can see what department would be involved, everything else they're working on. And in fact, in marketing, if I want to link Catherine Devers to that new customer survey, because she's done them before, I can do that, or I can see, wow, she's got a bunch of stuff to do. Maybe it's actually Kelly Smith. I'm seeing Kelly over here. So let's make a connection and not use Catherine, so I'm going to unlink Catherine and use Kelly. So now we've got Kelly working on the customer service. This is it now in marketing. It's 2016 business expansion. So that one is full steam ahead. Other stuff might require, more research. So integrating existing information is just as easy. So for instance, let me go ahead and go into my marketing folder. I have a document on visa requirements to work in Asia. So that's very important. So I need to drag and drop that under this idea of opening my new office in Asia. And this is where I'm going to start to build a knowledge base on how to execute on this particular idea. Now, if I drag and drop a document, what that does is that creates a shortcut, if I go to my thought area, as to where that file is stored. Now, I can leave it, but I like to synchronize my data to the cloud and get it on multiple machines. So I want this stored internally. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click. I'm going to sunset this file. I could copy it, but I'm going to move this file into my brain, so it's no longer there. The other thing that I'll need to think about is an employee training plan. Obviously, we'll be hiring a bunch of new people in that office, so this is also very important. So let me go ahead and do that and actually go ahead and then move that file into my brain. And I can also copy files if I want. So there's a tech budget and training resources, those documents. I might just want to copy into my brain. So let me just go and paste. So it's very easy to add these files. I can take notes on thinking this is a risky, high-cost venture, but I think it will pay off in about two years' time. So that's my idea. I can actually go ahead and timestamp that as well. So I have that. I do have calendaring as well if I want to set reminders to do anything here. Opening up an office in Asia, that will fall under operations. So I want to go ahead and connect it under my operations department. It's also going to involve some legal counsel, especially for the visa requirements. So I want to go ahead and connect Vicky. Now, I always like to connect people as jumps to my main document that I'm working on. So when I click on visa requirements, I want Vicky, who is our general counsel, to look at that. And so I can see that's attached there. So you can see how this is all coming together nicely. I can create new information. I might want to talk about a relocation plan to Hong Kong, for instance, as a possibility. So now I can just create that thought, and I can add a new document or attachment and start working on it right there. So let me just add a Word document and start typing about relocation costs, etc. Now that's going to go ahead and save right back into the brain, and that's stored internally. Let me just close that. So you can see here, I've got relocation, and that's internally. I can actually go ahead and do versioning as well in the brain. So if I want to come in here and open this document again, and maybe I've made some, very extensive modifications, and I want to save this as a different version. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save As, and the current folder is just the brain folder. Each folder in your brain has a unique identification number, and it's not magical. I can drag and drop in and out of this area, but that's the folder that is assigned to this brain, or this thought. So what I do when I come in here is I just go ahead and I'm going to save this as version 2 right in here and hit save. And this is a great way to do versioning. I'm going to close that. So now what you can do is you can see under my relocation plan to Hong Kong, I've got little number 2 there. So I've got different versions there. So that's all looking pretty good. And of course I can go ahead and add web content. So I'm going to go to options and search web. Learn a little bit more about how to open up an office. Now there's interesting news that I can learn about. So there's different news articles that are popping up on this. I might want to change this to how to get the information that I need. And, you know, there's all kinds of different information. So maybe I'll go ahead and get some case studies of other companies that have done it. So Uber, there's an Uber competitor in Asia. Let me read that. So I'm simply going to drag and drop. Now I can drag and drop any URL into the brain. So this can be an internal website from SharePoint. It can be whatever I want. So in this case, I'm just taking documents and dragging and dropping them into the brain. And we'll just wait for that page to load. The internet connection's a little slow here, so I'll just go ahead and see if there's a different site. Oh, here we go. All right, so here's another article. And so what you're seeing here is real fast in the quick 10 minutes that we've been looking at this, I've managed to integrate documents, web links, take some notes, link to people who are going to help me, different departments, and build a very, very powerful knowledge base for how to execute on this idea. So much so that this is going from a hot topic to, let me go ahead and change the thought type now, to a green-lighted project. Armed with information, we are now moving full steam ahead. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this under 2016 goals and resolutions. And that's the way, so let's just go back to that thought on 2016 at the top of my brain here. And there it is, my opening new office. So you can see how it all comes together. In terms of personal, maybe one of your goals is your kitchen renovation. And Matt's going to get a little bit more into personal goal management. So I think I'm going to switch presenter real soon. But I just wanted to show you here how cool it is to actually add icons to your thoughts, zoomable icons. And this is getting into that concept we talked about earlier about your brain for inspirational warehousing. So kitchen designs, I have this full section, maybe 2016 is the year, of all these different cool countertop ideas, counters, and stuff like this. So when I'm talking to my contractor, I have some really great references. And it's pretty easy to add an image. So for instance, let me just go ahead and create a new thought here called Modern Zen Kitchen. So let me add this thought, and I'm going to go out to the web and just do a search web for that, and go to images real quick just so you can see. So there's a bunch of interesting ideas. I like the combination of wood here, how this looks. So I can simply copy this image and come back to my thought and paste thought icon, and now I've got that zoomable image in my brain. So that's the way that's done. A lot of people ask, it's really simple, just copy and paste an image on the web. Now the other thing that you can do, which is really cool, let me just go back to some of these images, and let me grab something different here. Let's say I just wanted, on this particular image, maybe I just want this picture of how to decorate my kitchen. So I'm going to create a new thought here called, just maybe a jump thought, kitchen art, okay? So that could be interesting. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and right-click and select to capture thought icon. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting these crosshairs, and rather than the full image or this page, I just want to select this very interesting piece of art, maybe with the vase and the tea set below, and capture and paste. So now I've got that image in my brain. So two different options for getting images of your goals, which are important. And again, to get to that, there's either capture thought icon or paste thought icon. And that's how you get to these very wonderful zoomable icons. In fact, if I went back to my Asia section and opened office in Asia, I'd probably put some cool zoomable images of Asia just to keep me excited about that project as well. And I think with that, I am going to pass presenter over to you, Matt, so we can dive even further into, tracking and managing personal goals.
Great, thanks. And that's exactly what my portion of the demo will be all about, which is just personal New Year's resolutions and how we track them throughout the brain. I think Shelley gave us some great examples of how we can track our business resolutions. Sometimes maybe people want to increase their client base or punch up their sales numbers for the following year. But I think quite often the New Year's resolution is, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to try all the latest new restaurants, whichever direction you want to go. But that's what I'm going to share with you. First, what I'd like to do is show you how I actually became part of that 45% that made a resolution and the 8% that kept my New Year's resolution with TheBrain. My New Year's resolution last year, and you can see I've got a pin to this thought right in my brain. This is my own personal brain that I use on a daily basis to keep track of my own personal friends and hobbies and interests. So I always enjoy demoing this particular brain to everyone because it's really all about who I am. And right there at the top of the Plex, I have a shortcut to a thought. So you can right-click on any thought, particularly as your brain continues to evolve and grow. You can right-click on a thought and select to create a pin. And it just makes a nice little shortcut at the top of the brain to get to that thought. And this is a thought that I was visiting quite often throughout the year in 2015. My New Year's resolution was to run 1,000 miles that year. I recently got into running and fitness after a little bit of a health scare, and now I just absolutely love it. I eat it up, and I run every chance I get. And so this was a big one for me. And you'll notice that in my notes down below is where I kept track of, week 1 through week 52, how many miles I ran that week. And I would slowly increase and then back off and increase. And some weeks I had slow weeks, 11 miles, and I'd turn right around that. And you can see, answer that with a 29-mile week. So my own personal schedule, but I made this chart right here built into the notes. I then went and at one point realized, well, I want to add all this up and maybe have an Excel spreadsheet as well. So I've got both in this brain. I sort of had a fallback to, just really quickly drop it into the notes, or I could bring it and launch any attachment in its native application. So here is that same chart that I pasted into an Excel spreadsheet and added this little feature to tally up all the miles. And sure enough, I made my goal. And I can honestly tell you I wouldn't have made it without TheBrain, because I tried this several years back before I had TheBrain to do a swimming laps at a gym I was involved with, and that came down to me just jotting things down on a piece of paper that I kept by my nightstand. I forgot a few weeks in a row, and finally sometime in February that piece of paper was thrown out, and that was it for my New Year's resolution. So this year, 2015, I made it. It was successful, and I did it right here with TheBrain. So now I've been holding off knowing that this webinar was coming up, and I'm going to set up my 2016 New Year's resolution right here in my brain. So the first thing I'm going to do is, you can see I made an archive. When the year turned over, I dropped my 2015 event schedule into my fitness archive, and I've already created a thought here under fitness for my 2016 event schedule. So So the first thing I'm going to do is pin this thought. So I'm just sort of putting together my plan for this year. I right-click and I select to create a pin. So I've got a shortcut to that thought at the top of my brain. Let me make the brain just a little bit larger here and sort of minimize the tool tabs down below. I'm also going to right-click on 2015 and I'm going to select to remove this pin. When you remove a pin, it doesn't delete the thought, it just simply removes the shortcut to that thought. I can easily go back and refer back to that running schedule at a later date if I want to compare it to my new running schedule for this year, for example. So now I've got my 2016 event schedule, and I'm going to keep track of, on the fitness thought, you can see from this particular thought, I've got links to my doctors, I've got links to my fitness schedule, my diet and exercise and routine, my gym and pool hours are all linked right into my brain. So anything revolving around the subject of fitness is right here at my fingertips, right coming from this thought in the brain. And you can see in the notes, I kept a checklist. And this is what really helped me with my 2015 event goals. How many events I like to sign up for, just very amateur junior triathlons that happen in the area. I like to go running and so forth. You can see one goal I did not make. This wasn't my New Year's resolution to buy a treadmill, but it was something nice I wanted to do. Haven't found the right one yet, so that's going to stay for my 2016 goals. I'm just going to roll that one over. So I'm just going to copy these events from this note. Oops, let me get those one more time. So I'm just going to copy those and delete them. I'll go back to that 2015 event schedule, and right at the top of that note, I'll paste that in. And I do this from time to time, just move notes from one area to another just so I can keep track of what was important to me that year. And you'll notice as I click through a few more items here in this brain, I typically don't delete anything. I want to refer back to things that have happened in the past to help me make better decisions in the future. So for my 2015 goals, my New Year's resolution for my personal New Year's resolution is to sign up for 5 different events. So 5 different half marathons or a triathlon or a race of that kind. And so I just simply create a checkbox and say 5 different events. So I only have one so far, but I'll show you where I keep track of that. And of course, every January, I buy myself a new pair of running shoes. Running 1,000 miles can take its toll on your running shoes. So new running shoes. And I haven't done this yet, but when I do it, I'm simply going to check that off the list. And what I really like to do is timestamp it as well. Now, it really doesn't matter in this example. It's just a matter of habit. I did get my running shoes last weekend, so I'll just go ahead and leave that. I can modify the date if I need to. But this timestamp tool is really great in other areas of the brain where I'm keeping track of conversations that I had with people or products that I've purchased online. Maybe I ordered those running shoes online, which I did, and if they haven't shown up yet after 2 weeks, I can look at this date and say, wait a minute, January 14th, those should have been here by now. Time to look up that thought, call that number, call Amazon, what have you, and track down that particular order. So timestamp, again, a great way to just sort of keep track of your progress along the way, and if needed, refer back to it later. Another thing that I like to do, particularly in this brain, is link to web pages. Now, obviously, in the brain, we can link to all types of digital information. The brain really is meant to become a digital reflection of your own organic brain. So regardless of how you're thinking about your Word documents, your spreadsheets, your web pages, it's all there at your fingertips in the brain, displayed in its relationships. So, for example, my 2016 event schedule, I only have one so far, and it's a race that I do every year called the Paddle and Portage. And what's really fun about this, and this is a great example to show off, is my wife and I really make a weekend out of this event. We meet some friends that also do the race with me, so I've got a link over to Tom and Chrissy Sonic, some very good friends of mine. We keep track of the restaurants that we go to. So we've been to 2 restaurants. This happens in Madison, Wisconsin. We go to Four Quarter. This is a little strange, but pig in a fur coat is actually a fantastic new restaurant that we tried out, and we really, really liked it. And again, I'll keep notes on that as well. If there's a dish that I like, or someone that I meet there, if I know that owns the restaurant, I can call them for a reservation. And here I've even made a note, you need to make a reservation. It's so popular. And I've just got a couple of dishes that, that we tried as a group and some of the standouts there. So I can use that if we decide to go back again in the future. And of course, we will be going back to this event this year, and I've already pulled up right here a couple of restaurants that I'd like to try. Here's a restaurant called L'Etoile and Estrelon. So a couple of interesting looking restaurants, and easy enough, I can simply click and drag those right into the brain. Now, I wanted to show you, I've got a different restaurant area, but this is more in context with a restaurant that I want to go to while doing the paddle and portage weekend. And I saw this question come up earlier on the question panels. How can you move thoughts if you've linked them to the wrong area? Well, I actually did this on purpose. I linked this as a child thought below paddle and portage. Now, Estrelon, the restaurant, has nothing to do really except for location with paddle and portage, but they're closely related because they're in the same town, and we're going to be sort of visiting each, the event and the restaurant over that weekend. So I simply want to make that a jump thought. And I click and drag it over to the jump thought area. Now I could also click and drag and start typing in the name that it should be connected to. So if I have a thought for Wisconsin, I type in WIS, there's Wisconsin. I can double click and make Estrelon a jump thought of Wisconsin as well. So there are different ways that you can move thoughts around and rearrange and restructure within the brain. And that's actually what I did. Let's jump out of this particular event now and come back up to my 2016 event schedule. Now, obviously, right underneath fitness, if we would have looked at this brain a month ago, this was my 2015 event schedule. But I moved that over to my fitness event archive. And of course, I'll do that again in December of this year. I'll simply move this over to fitness event archive to make that link and then unlink it from fitness. So I am quite often moving thoughts through, in my business brains, through a business process. This is phase 1, phase 2. Or in this example, here's something that happened last year. Now here's something that's going on this year. So I'll unlink that and keep that linked directly to fitness. And let's talk about how I'm going to grow this particular event a little bit more. So again, I can stay on track with my new goal, which is 5 events. I only have 1 fitness event so far. That's this canoe race. Another event that I'm going to be doing, I'm actually going to be doing this with my son. It's the Pewaukee Kids Triathlon. So a lot of fun for my whole family. My oldest son absolutely loves this event. And my youngest son is interested in doing it now as well. And so I've got a link back to the 2015 event schedule because we did it then. And I can just refer back to the multiple different years that this event took place. You may have noticed in my paddle portage thought it was linked to multiple years because I've done it multiple times. And of course, I keep track of, in my notes section, order numbers, confirmation numbers. You know, so often we receive those emails, print this out for your records. And one of the large changes that the brain did in my life is it saved a lot of paper because I no longer need to print those out or lose them in my vast, never-ending emails. Those key ingredients that I need and are important to me, such as order confirmation numbers, phone numbers, and so forth, I copy and paste those right into my notes. And I'll do that in just a little bit for another event as well. So there I've got 2 events. I'll be doing this one with my kids. It's another weekend-long, family-friendly events that take place. And finally, I've heard good things about the Door County Triathlon. I've got Door County Handworks. That's sort of a shop that my wife really likes to go to in Door County. But I don't have anything yet for Door County Triathlon. So, and I haven't found this online to click and drag it right into the brain. So right here from the brain, you can actually search the web. So I'm just simply going to keystroke to click on F4. You can click on up above to go down to options, search web. I click on F4, that brings up the Brain search web feature. So I'm automatically searching the Brain for whatever is in the current thought. I can modify that if I want. I can even change my search engine. I like to use Google, so I'll go ahead and search the web. This brings up a Google search with Door County Triathlon, and there it is right at the top of the list, and more information that I'll be checking out here in the future. So I'm just going to drag and drop that right into, rather than dropping it below to create a child thought, I'm actually going to drag and drop that onto the existing thought. So I've got a link back to the website for Door County Triathlon. I don't know anything about this event, so I need to do a little bit of research, and I probably need to sign up soon. A lot of these events, they actually fill up by early springtime. So I'm going to right-click on this particular event, and I'm going to change the thought tag. So I want to talk a little bit about thought tags and types and how I utilize those in my brain as well. Now, Shelley had some great examples, business examples, very clarifying categories that your projects are fitting into and attributes of those categories. I really have a much more simplified version of that here in my own personal brain. I'm basically keeping track of how important it is and how much I like it. So for my thought tags. So I'm going to make this a top priority. I need to check on this very soon to see if there's still time for me to sign up or if it's an event that I'm interested in. If not, I'll sign up for something different. So I make that a top priority. You can see others have, I keep this little star chart. So 4 stars, 3 stars, 2, 1, etc. And I'll talk about those stars in just a moment. But my top priority tag, now I can click on my thought tags and go to my top priority thought, and these are all the different top priority items that I have going on right now in my brain. So my 2015 event schedule, I was going in there all the time last year. I can now unlink that. So I just right-click, no longer interested in my 2015 event schedule. I could link this to my 2016. So by linking, it actually makes that a top priority. So it actually assigns that tag to the thought because I'm on the thought tag right now. So my 2016 event schedule is my new top priority, and one of those are my Door County Triathlon research tasks. So I need to see if I'm really going to do that event. And here again is another example, Bucks tickets. We've got some tickets on Friday to the Milwaukee Bucks. And this, I simply did a drag and drop right out of Gmail, right into the brain. The great thing I really like about Gmail is that each individual email you go to is a unique URL. So I can click and drag this right into my brain. So I've got easy access to my ticket confirmation. And I can even take that confirmation number because I've got a link to it. I sometimes just follow the link, or if that confirmation number is all I need, there's actually a PDF on here I need as well. But once again, in the notes, I can right-click and paste that confirmation number right there into the notes. So this top priority is going, this Bucks tickets thought is going to stay a top priority until we go to the game tomorrow night, and then I'll simply uncheck. And so that is no longer a top priority for me. But I'm going to leave it checked for now so I remember where my tickets are tomorrow morning. And then medium priority, obviously just things that I hope to get to a little bit later in the year. This isn't my #1 top focus, but projects that I hope to do in with some woodworking. And let's talk about the stars really quickly. It's pretty self-explanatory, but something I want to point out. I've got 5-star items. These are things that I really like. Maybe it's a restaurant. Maybe it's a parts store for a car or a museum. These are things that really pique my interest. And I've been asked several times, why on earth would you keep track of something that's 1 star? If you don't like it, why is it in your brain? Well, that is specifically so that I can learn from my mistakes. You may have noticed that one of my top priorities is I need to go to the dentist. So I've got that as a top priority item. My wife has been bothering me, make that dentist appointment. I've been to a particular dentist before, and I didn't like the experience. So he might be a top priority, but he's also just a 1 star right now. I need to find a new dentist. So I'll take care of that research later. But this reminds me, don't call this guy to make my appointment. I'll do that with someone else. And here's another one that's really on topic with what we're studying today, Bradford Beach Triathlon. I didn't like it. Why didn't I like it? Well, I'll have that information down in the notes. So there was broken glass in the parking lot. They didn't clean the parking lot where the transition area was, no organization, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got some notes down there about why I didn't like it. Why haven't I just deleted this thought from my brain? It's because I've been doing these events since 2010. Eventually, I'm going to start thinking, and I'm already doing that now, did I sign up for this event? Have we done this one in the past or not? My wife and I don't always remember which one. And now I do with the brain. I keep track of them in the brain. Yes, we signed up for that, and we really didn't like it. We're not signing up for it again. So there it's linked to my 2013 event schedule. And because of the way I ranked it, it will not be linked up to one of my new event schedules. So I'm keeping track of both the good and the bad in my life throughout the brain. And then finally, another component that I wanted to share with you. So now, obviously, I have some more work to do. My 2016 event schedule, I've got 3 so far. You can see how I'm going to continue to let that grow, do my research, find new events, maybe link to other existing events. If I can't find something out on the web, some new exciting event, maybe I'll sign up for one I've done in the past. So I know that I've done the Chicago Triathlon quite a few times. So there's Chicago Triathlon. Falls under one of my favorite events. I really like it. Maybe I'll do that one again. So there I simply selected an existing event that I already have information on here in my brain. And now I'm up to 4 and just one more to go to make my New Year's resolution a reality. And then finally, the last component, though, and Shelley and I were discussing this earlier, is that it's also great to reward yourself. You did something that you succeeded in a goal that you set out to do. That's an important step. And I do that in a very small way in my brain. It's very subtle. I do that with the thought types, but I really, really enjoy doing it. So another project, a personal passion of mine, is remodeling an old VW bus. So it's, you can see from my wallpaper, I'm sort of a fan of VW buses, not the really old ones, sort of the 70s years. And so I've got a theme on my wallpaper to inspire me from time to time. It makes me happy. You can see if I go through my, let me take you down here through the master checklist. Here, once again, I'm using those checklists, projects that I've completed, things that I've talked about or thought about. So I've got a little bit of a checklist there, but more importantly, I've got my parts list. So when I actually get the physical part in my hands. And notice my thought types. So my thought types here, I've got 2 categories, either complete or incomplete. I've got another thought type that appears called current focus. So that's something that I'm currently working on for the VW bus. This is a secondary priority for me. So I don't utilize, well, I did make that one a top priority because it's safety-wise important to have good seat belts. But typically I don't use my thought tags in this area, just my thought types. And I keep these 2 thought types, complete or incomplete. And I can't even tell you, I love nothing more than switching a thought in this area of my brain over from being incomplete, and then it goes through phase 2. It's a current focus. So I'm now working on finding the best seatbelts. Do they fit into this model car, et cetera. There's a lot to think about. Obviously, you can see I've got different notes and videos that I keep track of and references down below. But, oh, I'm going to be so happy when I can right-click on this thought and go down here to thought type and change this to a completed task for my VW parts. And what will really make me happy, and this is my real brain, so I do need to change that back so I don't fool myself into thinking that I've completed that task. So there we go. We're back to it's a current focus. And let me rearrange my thoughts just a bit. You can see my thoughts are currently arranged under VW parts in alphabetical order. But this will really give you a little bit more clarity on how far along I am in my task. I'm just going to right-click on the background, and I'm going to arrange my thoughts by thought type. And so there you can see right at the top are all my happy little yellow faces that make me so happy. Here are my current focuses. And then I'm just about equal, almost 50-50, half done, half to go. All my little angry faces, I don't have that task done yet. So I'll be absolutely thrilled when all of these change to all yellow, happy, smiley faces. So that's my own personal reward in my brain. But it's not just a reward. It actually gives me brilliant clarity on where I am in this process. I mean, I can honestly look at this and tell you I am absolutely 50% of the way through. This is everything that I need to buy, and yellow is what I've bought so far, and the pink things are things that have not yet been purchased. So the thought types and tags, those are some options for you to use within your brain, both to help you stay on track, stay focused, and finally, in this small example, reward yourself when you have completed that task and keep track of your progress throughout the duration of your New Year's resolution. And so, Shelley, with that, I think I'll hand it back to you and see if we have any questions out there.
All right, great. Well, it's been a productive session. We are on the hour, but we're going to go a little bit over time for another 10 minutes just to get into Q&A. Great presentation. What I loved most was, the management of a goal and tracking of progress. So I think, as a takeaway from today, what you can all learn is just how important not only getting that goal in your brain, but tracking how far along you've gotten, and of course recording those key milestones. Now, for those of you that do have to leave on the hour, this session will be recorded again. For those of you that can say, we're going to review some of the great questions. Thanks to everyone for their participation in the Q&A area for those. And Lisa had a question about how does Matt use the inbox thought he saw. So I thought that might be sort of a placeholder for stuff you put, and then you categorize later, because I do that too. I have mine is called to read. I'm like a news junkie, and I find so many cool news articles. I don't have time to read them all, so I put them in to read, and then later at the end of the day I read them, and I may or may not, I might delete them or organize them. So I'll let you answer Lisa's question on your inbox.
Sure. So yeah, I keep a thought right next to my Matt Caton thought called to be filed. So that's sort of my my take on an inbox. And I will, to be perfectly honest with you, this thought used to get a lot of traffic as my brain was evolving and growing in the early stages. Now I kind of know where everything goes. I know if it's a fitness related, if someone says, hey, Matt, you should sign up for this event, or here's a little short little race, or here's a new bike you should check out. I know where to put that in my brain, but every now and then, maybe I'm in a hurry, or maybe I don't have a category for this yet, or I just can't even stop to think about it. I'll drop it here. So I'll open my brain, and this is typically, the starting point, me, for my brain, and I'll just click over to my to be filed and fill this in. And I do have one event right now. I have got a court pass this is for my basketball game that I'm taking my kids to tomorrow night. They get to go down on the court at halftime and shoot free throws. So sort of a cool little thing they're doing with their basketball club. And so I'm going to link this, I'll just make it a jump thought, to basketball. So I'm going to move that over. And right now, from my basketball thought, I've got easy access to that court pass if I need to present it on the floor, as well as my thought down below here for my tickets that I can print out, or just take my phone with me and access all this information from my brain on my phone. So I can open that up right on my iPhone if needed. And now that I've categorized that, my court pass, maybe I'll make this a jump thought of Bucks tickets since it's for that event, and unlink that from basketball. And I can just really quickly jump back. I know where that thought goes, and I can unlink that from my to be filed. So I've cleaned that area out. And I'll do that from time to time, just check that thought, make sure there's nothing outstanding in that area that I need to drop somewhere in my brain.
All right, great. And that sort of gets to Mark's question that he had earlier in the session. Time permitting, I'd like tips on moving thoughts and changing links. And so we'll cover a little bit of that today. I also want to let you know, Mark, next week we have the perfect webinar for you. It's the Brain 202, Changing and Evolving Your Brain. And that is literally, we take fully developed brains and do all kinds of changes to them to show you how easy it is to change. So we'll give you a little bit of that today. Also cover that on the 101, and then join us next week, same time, for the webinar on evolving your brain.
Sure. Well, it's really easy to move around visual thoughts that you can currently see in the brain. So let's say my thought for water activities, this is all about scuba diving and swimming and surfing and so forth. If I wanted to make that a jump, I can simply click and drag it to the side of me, Matt, and that suddenly becomes a jump thought. But more often than not, what will happen is, so those are easy changes to make, but what happens from time to time, let's say I go back out to my web pages, and here's that other restaurant that I don't think I linked to, L'Etoile. You know, maybe I'm doing some research. Oh, yeah, I forgot to put that into my brain, so whoops, I'll just click and drag right down into my brain, and I wasn't even watching where my brain currently was. Now, L'Etoile, a restaurant in Madison, Wisconsin, is a child thought of Matt Caton. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. I need to move that over to that paddle and portage event that I'm flying out to do this summer. So I'm going to click and drag a link off of the parent gate, off of restaurants in Madison, to paddle and portage. Oh, actually, I want to make this a jump thought. So that would have made it a child thought. I'll click and drag off the jump gate. And I type in paddle. I've got a lot of thoughts that start with the word paddle, but there it is, paddle and portage. I can double click on that, so you can see that made it a link to that existing thought, and I simply unlink it from Matt Caton. So I placed this thought in the absolute wrong location, but it took me a matter of seconds to move it into the correct location here in my brain. So that's probably a feature that you'll use from time to time. And of course, there are many other ways to do that, more advanced ways. You know, I can take everything that's a jump thought off of paddle and portage. I'm going to control click and put that into my selection box. So on a PC, you do that with control click. On a Mac, you do that with command click. I won't get into all the details of this. That's specifically what our next webinar is for. But as you can see, in mass, I can take these thoughts and take them over to another brain. I can link them to a different thought. I can change their attributes, their thought types and tags.
Yeah, real quick, Matt, if you just want to change the position of a bunch of thoughts, I think that would be helpful.
Sure. So let's say I linked these thoughts up to paddle and portage, and gosh, that's not the event. These are all supposed to be linked to the Chicago triathlon. So I'm going to start by, since I have them here visible on the screen, I'm just going to unlink them. So I've got a grouping of thoughts that I've unlinked from paddle and portage. Now I can go to a different area in my brain, so I'll go over to my Chicago, and I'm just leaving that window open while I navigate around. So Chicago Triathlon, there it is. And these are the restaurants that I'm going to be visiting while going to the Chicago Triathlon. So with Chicago Triathlon, the new current active thought, I will now right-click in my selection box and say to link these as jumps of Chicago Triathlon. So I've taken a group of thoughts from one area of my brain and moved them over to a completely separate area. Saved a lot of time, and this happens quite often, especially when you're brainstorming about a project, and here are the different tasks that you're going to do, and phase 4 is going to involve all these things, and you suddenly realize, I'm not ready to do those things. That's not till phase 7. Well, it's not going to take a lot of work to capture all that grouping of thoughts, unlink them from their current location, and move them to another. So that's another great example of when this more advanced feature takes place. And Shelley, while you're answering the next question, I'm actually going to fix this. Since this is my real brain, I'm going to, once again, unlink those from Chicago.
Oh, yeah, you might want to move into another brain. Oh, that's right.
So here, you can time me. How long is it going to take?
If you make a mistake, you can easily correct it in the brain. There you go. Very nice. And I don't know if you want to move to another brain to show this, but earlier on, Raj asked, and I did kind of cover this a little bit, but it is an important point, especially for goals and inspiration, how to put a picture on the Plex. So that could mean two things. That could mean your wallpaper, which how do we get some nice wallpaper back there, and of course, how to add an image to a thought through copy thought icon or paste.
Great, yes, and I saw you had some great examples with your
kitchen renovation
design, the kitchen renovation, the design, and the nice artwork, and the teapot, and so forth. So again, I'll just show you that example. Let's say I want to go to, let me go back to this restaurant in Madison. You can see how easy it is to rearrange a thought. This
and by the way, Raj, sorry to interrupt, Matt. Raj just mentioned the wallpaper that he's interested in.
It's the wallpaper. Great. So I was going to give this picture here to
go ahead and show the picture too. That's great. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm going to just right-click on this and select to capture a thought icon, And there I've got that nice little picture down in the corner. I just need a little edge. I like the green veggies. There we go. And so there I've got that nice little picture as the icon for that thought. So now we're talking about the wallpaper. So the wallpaper, there are a couple of different ways that you can do this. If you have that image, like I've got an image now on my clipboard that I captured, I can right-click and paste that wallpaper in. But what I'm going to do is go to Options and into Preferences, because the reason why I show you this particular method is because quite often when you're changing the wallpaper, you actually end up changing the colors of the links and the and all of the components of the brain, the color of the gates, so that they stand out and you can see them. If I made all of my links a really light blue with this light blue VW bus back there, you wouldn't be able to see the links. So I have it stand out in a much more bold yellow color. And I tell you what I'll do is I'm actually going to save this. I'm going to go to Options, into View, and I'm going to, let me get to the right place there. There we go. So you can set up a theme and save a theme. I'm going to save this theme as VW, so I can come back to it with that wallpaper at any time. I can choose from other existing themes, some that I've created. There will be some defaults there for you in the brain. But in this case, I'll go into Preferences and into the brain, so I can easily modify the color components. But from here, I'm going to select a new wallpaper. So I'll go onto my desktop and into my computer, and on my C drive, I believe I've got some wallpapers to choose from. And let's see if I can, I'll just select the mountains. Say I'm going to be going hiking in the near future, so I've selected some sort of artistic, colorful looking mountains. Now I'm not really liking my yellow links, so while I'm in this window, I'm going to change my links. Maybe I want my links to be a really bright red, so I'll go into Custom, and that'll really stand out.
Actually, that is a very nice background.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about your red links, though.
It's a personal
Maybe
choice.
like a darker
Absolutely.
purple or something. I'm not sure.
Sure. Let's try it. So I'll go in and try a nice dark purple, so we'll customize that.
More subtle, like the watercolor.
Go a little dark. Oh, and you know what? I think you're right, Shelley. I like it.
Okay.
There we go. So
very nice.
Obviously play around with whatever best fits your mood. Maybe you've got all sort of grays and reds, monochromatic, or really bright colors that pop and stand. It really is, here again, another feature that helps you create a digital brain that reflects your own organic thinking.
All right, and I did cover this, but a couple people, Jacques and a few others, did ask if there is a template available from thoughts to results. I can email you that zip, but I think, Matt, if you just want to start a new brain and show how to do the import of the brainstorming brain, that pretty much has literally everything in that brain. So that I think that
you've got a lot of compliments, absolutely, on that brain that you started out with, Shelley, and we have built that right into the application. If you've got the brain installed, you actually have access to that brain. So I'm going to click on to create a new brain, and I'll call this Brainstorm 101. And from my list of templates, make sure this checkbox has a check in it, and now you'll see the possible templates you can choose from. Shelley showed this earlier with the thought types and tags. In this case, I'm going to select brainstorming and say OK. Now you can do this also with an existing brain. Let's say you just want to merge in. You like the looks of that brainstorming and you want to bring that right on into your existing brain. You can do that as well by selecting File, Import, and import the brain template. In this case, I'm starting out with a new brain, so it's going to take a little while. It's a pretty significant brain with a really nice structure of the process of brainstorming, some great links in there to use as references, and as well as thought types and tags that you can use to assign to all of the components. And once you have this brain, it's yours. You can go through and actually modify the content, change the name. Maybe you don't want it to have anything to do with, for whatever reason, Alex Osborne, you're more of a Stephen Covey, David Allen type of guy. Alex Osborne, it didn't work out for you. You can delete those thoughts or keep those, delete others, rename. The brain is now yours to continue to grow and modify.
you go to the goal-directed thinking thought in that brain. That thought was the area that we did spend the most time in earlier in the presentation, that has those 6 different steps to sort of achieving your goal. So feel free to utilize those, change the names, but again, that is right there in the brain 8. And now another follow-up question from Raj. I have 10 goals. Is there a way to order them by steps I want rather than alphabetically? I might not know which comes first initially, so typing 1, 2, 3 might be inconvenient. Well, ordering by number, you kind of, if you want a sequence, you do need to numerate. You can always change, or you can put different thought types. So Matt, I'll let you maybe
I like that.
right-click on order by name, order by number, show Raj what he can do there as far as ordering them, his goals by steps.
So Raj, you've got your 10 different steps, and let's really make this easy. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So those are my 10 thoughts. And right now, they're being viewed alphabetically. But like you said, you might want to do 8 and 9 first, and then follow that up with 1 through 5 or what have you. What you might want to play around with is creating some thought types. So which grouping of tasks are you interested in completing first? Maybe it's 1, 3, and 5. That's phase 1. So we can right-click and create a thought type. I don't think these phases are here, so we'll create really quickly a new thought type called phase 1. And number 5 is also going to be in phase 1. And you'll see you're about to see what I mean. So let me take this down to phase 1. And we'll say 9 is a phase 1 item as well. Right-click and thought type phase 1. So now if I just leave my brain in its current setting, which remember I changed to order by thought type, look at what we see coming first. 1, 5, and 9 are all part, and I'll see that when I mouse over. That's phase 1, phase 1, phase 1. So even though you're not quite sure of your steps, if you can figure out a way, Raj, to group those together, here's what I want to get done first, second, third, and then as you're seeing, gosh, this one task is going to take a while, maybe I kind of want to bump that down to phase 2 or phase 3. You don't have to change the thought name or anything. You can simply right-click, and 9 is now a new thought type, and that's phase 2.
All right, great. And I think with that, we did cover a lot of ground in today. We're going to end today's session. I do want to remind you, tomorrow we have the Brain 101 hosted by Matt Caton. So the class size is quite a bit smaller than the webinar. So if you have a specific brain you want to cover, you can join us for that. In fact, real quick, there was an earlier question. Let me just see if this person is still on the call about asking how to use the brain for CRM. I don't know if you want to open up the eSolutions brain really quickly. But yes, you can use the brain for client management, customer management, CRM. That question was coming from Steve, actually. And we, happy to go more in detail on different examples as well. So you can pop in and out of that class anytime. And it's not just for beginners, even though it is called 101. We have lots of advanced users that'll pop in halfway through just to, get their questions answered. So real quick, just to finalize, and we'll end the webinar on Steve's question, the brain be used for CRM, customer resource management. This is an example where you can organize clients by service, by project, by industry. It's a great template brain. I think we actually have it on the site. So Matt, I'll let you give maybe a minute or two on this brain for client management, and then we'll end the session today.
Sure. There's so much in this brain. And here again, this is a brain you can download from www.thebrain.com/app. There's some great additional brain templates there and videos of Shelley and I using this brain. But for client management, for CRM, sure, I can come down to a particular client. I'll go into my top clients. I think I was just there. And I'll click on Time Warner. And here I am on Time Warner. I clicked through top clients. I could have come down through media and entertainment. I could have come through clients by service type, communications. So one of the many ways that using the brain is much more beneficial than using a folder, the file and folder type structure. I could have wasted a lot of time not being able to find that client I was looking for because I've got that client saved in my top clients folder, not my communications folder. But what's more than that, I can see all of the people in my organization that are working on this particular account. I even have their tasks identified on the link types. We'll talk about that in Brain 101. And finally, down below, any type of documents that's going along with projects that we're working on for that client. You can see we've got an ad campaign. All the components of that ad campaign are at my fingertips. And of course, as we've demonstrated today, extensive use of the notes and file attachments so we can actually move this ad campaign through its business cycle and keep track of it along the way and know exactly which tasks are complete and which have yet to be completed. So it's a great, great way to manage your CRM. And yes, I'll be demoing on this brain tomorrow for the Brain 101. So I'll be hosting. Join me, and you can sign up on our website.
All right, and with that, we're going to close today's session today. Do join us. Join Matt tomorrow for the Brain 101. That's at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can actually sign up right off the website or right into support or email me if you want the exact link. And then the following week, all about change and doing structural changes to your brain. So sign up for that session. And we wish you well going from thoughts to results and getting your 2016 New Year's resolutions all organized and actualized in the brain. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.